Greetings, my name is Odell Bizell, and we're going to be talking about why diversity training doesn't work and what to do instead. Now, I know this might sound a little weird because this is a part of the Bloom Inclusion Conference, which is diversity training, but stick with me. And the reason why I'm presenting this training to you is because I had an incredible experience, and I'm calling it incredible because I couldn't really believe it was happening. Now, I have a podcast called The Odell Bizell Show, but before that, I had a podcast called What Do You Say When? With my white best friend, and he's going to remain nameless, but we were doing really, really well. We started the podcast in 2014, and it went off very well with the audience. We were talking about opposing views, we were talking about hot topics, and it was a pretty funny show, and we had an opportunity to grow our audience. We had an opportunity to connect to bigger companies and have bigger opportunities. But my friend, he just didn't get it. And here's what I mean. A lot of companies, a lot of organizations, they bring in diversity, equity, inclusion training to try to shift the mindset to help people better understand how things are now. And I had all that with my friend, and it just didn't work. He had me as somebody who he could lean on if he didn't understand something. He had all the resources around him, and it just didn't work. And so I was in this predicament where I had my friend, but he was spouting a lot of problematic language continuously, and he was doing all these different things. And through that process, I learned why diversity training really doesn't work and what I should have done instead years ago with my friend, and what you can do in your organization or in your corporation to help people better understand why diversity, equity, inclusion is connected to something that a lot of people overlook. Now, right now, where you are, I want you to raise your hand if you've ever heard of me before. Most people haven't. I really keep thinking I'm more famous than that, but I'm not. Since 2008, I've been sharing a message of diversity, equity, inclusion skills to the younger generation at colleges, universities, and now I'm doing more corporate training and more work with business associations. And what's interesting about this work over the last 12 years is that the information is out there. The information is out there. In fact, there are a lot of companies that put information out there. And I want to ask you this question. What's your favorite brand of ice cream? Just think about it right now. What's your favorite brand? Not the favorite flavor, but the favorite brand. What is it? What is it? Is it Breyers? Is it Perry's? Is it Bluebell? What is it? What's your favorite brand of ice cream? I'm going to tell you mine. Mine is, wait for it, Ben and Jerry's. Ben and Jerry's. I love Ben and Jerry's for a lot of different reasons, but the main reason that I love Ben and Jerry's is because they always share some type of socially charged messaging on their packages. They even create flavors around social justice messages like Justice Remixed and Empowerment and all that stuff. And I had the unique opportunity of meeting the co-founder of Ben & Jerry's, Jerry Greenfield, at an event where he was scooping ice cream. And being the person that I am, I had to ask him, I had to go up to him and say, Jerry, love your ice cream, love what you all are doing. Are y'all really about that life? Is that something that you sit in the boardrooms and you say, you know what? I think Justice Remixed would be a phenomenal flavor for our audience. We can get the message out that Black Lives Matter. I said, really? And he said, absolutely. We market with our values. So we value all that stuff, and we understand that there's going to be an audience that connects with it, and that is what we want. We want people aware. We want people to know that this is what our company is about. And so I want to ask you, do you market with your values? Do you market with the values of the founders? Do you market with the values of the CEO, of the heads of your organizations? Is that how you market, not just to a customer, a new customer, but to the employees and to the people in your organization? Is that the messaging that you're getting across? And that's what's really important, because when we're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion training, we've got to get to the root of what we're really talking about. And I'm going to say a couple of things. Maybe it's going to make you uncomfortable. Maybe it won't, because you're here at Bloom. So it probably won't. But I want to ask you these questions. I'm going to ask these questions. What does it mean to be racist? Like, what does that really mean? Does that mean when a Black Lives Matter banner or protest is on that you cringe on the inside, you don't like it? Is that what that means? What does it mean to be sexist? What do these terms mean? A mentor of mine said that what cannot be defined can never be determined. So we as a people, we as a company, you as a company, as an organization, have to define what those terms mean inside of your organization and for the people, and get united on the definition. You don't have to be united about the opinion, but be united about the definition, because what cannot be defined can never be determined. And if you cannot define what the problem is, then it's going to be very, very difficult to solve that particular problem. Now, not only that, the fact of the matter is that the facts don't really matter as much as our perspective. What do I mean by that? If you're looking at somebody that is at the top of a mountain and they've climbed all the way to the top of the mountain, when they're looking down into the valleys, into the low parts, they have a different perspective than the person that's down in the valley looking up. And so you can say, oh man, climbing a mountain really isn't that hard. I mean, I did it. I did it. So it's going to be easy for you to do it. Well, that's your perspective. It's not a fact. The person at the bottom, they'll look up and say, oh, I don't know if I'll ever get up there. That is their truth. They don't know. And so a lot of times what we're battling, we're not battling facts. We're not battling information. We're battling perspective. And you as a company leader, you've got to understand that. So it doesn't really matter what is said, it's the perspective. And you have to get clear on the definition and clear on the perspectives. Now, let's get clear on why diversity, equity, inclusion training usually doesn't work. And there are three core reasons that I want to cover. The first one is it doesn't really work if you expect everybody to agree and get along with everything and never have a difference of opinion. So when we get everybody into a room, maybe everybody's in a room watching this, or maybe everybody is in a room with some on-site training or something like that. And you say, well, you know, the statistics say this and this and this and this, so that means that we've got to do this. And you expect everybody to be in agreement on it every single time. It's not going to happen. Think about it. We don't even agree all the time with people that we love and live with. Now, my wife, Sierra, and I have been married going on 13 years. Been with her since I was 19 years old. Love her to life. We don't agree on everything. And I'm not talking about just how, like, the toilet paper should go, right? Everybody knows it should go over. But we disagree on some, like, fundamental truths about life. And so I don't agree with her all the time, but we still live, work, and do life together. Now, of course, she's my wife. I love her. and we're not in love with all of our coworkers and all that stuff all the time, but we have a common goal. And so if you expect everybody to always agree and never have a difference of opinion, then diversity, equity, inclusion training, it's not going to work. The second way it's not going to work is if the people in your organization don't want to grow and learn more. Because here's the thing, we're constantly hit with advertisements, new information. Did you know that this black person is the one that invented this, but this white person is getting all the credit? You're constantly getting that. Did you know that this general led the Confederacy, but there's an elementary school named after him? What do you think about that? All of these things we're getting, it's newer information to many of us. And if people don't want to learn and grow and become better, then it's not going to work. Well, what are we going to do, Odell? Don't worry, we're going to be talking about that. But I'm just laying down the facts, the foundation of why diversity training usually doesn't work. Do you know how a bridge is built? You know how a bridge is built? What I thought, because I'm a communication major, not an engineer, I thought that they start at one end and then just build it across all the way to the other end. It's not how they do it. They do both sides. Then they come together and they meet in the middle. Now, if one side doesn't want to come all the way to the middle, then the bridge will collapse. And so if you got people in your organization that don't want to meet in the middle to come to a common understanding, it's not going to work. And then you have to decide what to do with that information. Now, the last way that diversity, equity, inclusion training doesn't work, or the last reason that it doesn't work, is it's not directly connected to something that you care about. And we're going to start really diving deep here. We're all tuned into one radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? Everybody. And so if you say things like Black Lives Matter, and I'm white, and I've never seen a black person in person, or I've never experienced that, does it really matter to me? I don't know. If a bomb goes off in Lebanon, it doesn't affect me. Why do I care? A lot of times, this is how people receive different information. It's just like the pandemic. Nobody I know has ever been, they don't have it. That stuff isn't real. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So if it's not connected to something that I care about, if I don't think that it's going to help me or mine, then it's not going to work. So what do we do? What do we do with that? So we know that. I think inherently we know a lot of things, but what do we do with them? We have to go back to our goals and our desires as an organization. What do you want? What do you want? Do you just want to give everybody a PDF or a white paper that says, hey, you got to be nicer to people that are different than you? Okay? All right? Good job. Let's go do work. If that's what you want, that's pretty simple. But if you really want a core character change in your organization, if you really want to get the ears and eyes of influential people to bring about change, not just at an organizational level, but at a human level, then there are some things that we can do. But I first want to share this. And I think this is one of the biggest oversights in the history of diversity training. That's right, I said it. Biggest oversight in the history of diversity training, which is probably about 60 some odd years old officially. Are you ready for it? You probably already know what it is. Spoiler alert, I already gave you a hint of what it is. The biggest oversight in diversity training is that everybody is selfish. Everybody's selfish. Why is that the biggest oversight? Because whenever we do conferences or trainings or different things like that. The person that prompted that or triggered that or led that, the leader, usually somebody like you have a big heart for people and you want things to change for whatever reason. And so you want that heart to be put in everybody else's chest. Oh, don't you care about this? Don't you care about this? Most people don't care about the same stuff that you care about with the same intensity. I have 3 kids, Michaela, Rain, and Will. Nobody cares more about them than I do. Nobody should, outside of my family, should care about them more than I do. And so I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that their life is better, me personally. And so if what you're telling me or the information you're sharing me makes me think that I'm not going to be able to do that for my family, I could care less about what you're talking about. Because everybody's selfish. It's not a bad thing. That's how we made it here. That's what our brain does. Our brain filters information that is contradictory to its survival. So what do? Here's what we do. Here's what we do instead. Here is why I'm here. We have to connect diversity, equity, inclusion to one thing that so many people overlook. I've gone all across this great nation and even to Canada and asked the question, why should diversity, equity, inclusion matter? Why should it matter? Why should it matter? I'm asking you, why should it matter? In one word, in one phrase, why should it matter? Why are you even watching this? Why have you decided to attend? Think about that. One thing that so many people overlook whenever they're sharing information is they overlook how to connect it to a universal thing that everybody wants. Success. How do you connect diversity, equity, inclusion to success? That's it. How do you connect it to my well-being in my family's life? And the way that we do it is through building skills. We build skills because skills don't have emotions, and we're going to be talking about that. But I want to specifically let you know that diversity, equity, inclusion, it helps us become successful because it gives us a reminder. It gives us a reminder. Think about it. Most people wake up to an alarm, maybe their children, or maybe their body just wakes them up around the same time every single day. And so a reminder is necessary for us to be successful in life. Now, what does diversity, equity, inclusion remind us of? Well, it reminds us that life is hard and life is unfair. It reminds us that life is hard and life is unfair. And so if life is hard and life is unfair, how does that help us become successful? Well, you've got to kind of know what you're fighting up against if you want to overcome something. And so I'll give you 2 examples. One is kind of a tongue-in-cheek example, and the other one is a real-life, historic example. Now, I don't know if you can tell. I don't know if the camera angles show me correctly, but I'm not a tall person. I'm not. I'm vertically challenged a little bit. In fact, I reached my peak height at 13 and a half years old. Yep, I've been 5'8" ever since then. And I used to have the dream of becoming a famous basketball player. Yes, there have been a few men my height or shorter that have gone on to play professional basketball. But, not me. I didn't make it. And I knew I wasn't going to make it when I was 15 years old and I met somebody that you all may have heard of if you follow sports at all, if you follow anything, LeBron Ramon James Sr. LeBron James. I met LeBron James when I was 15 at a national tournament in Tennessee. And when I saw LeBron and his team play, I knew that life wasn't fair. I kind of knew it before, but I really knew it. How is this 15-year-old boy man, 6'4", 6'5", dunking on everybody? How is he like that? And I'm only 5'8". The tallest player on our team wasn't as tall as him. Life is hard and life is unfair. Yeah. Why couldn't, when the good Lord, when the creator of this great universe, when he was making LeBron James in the heavenly laboratory, or I don't know, wherever they make human beings, why couldn't he have poured just a few inches of height over in my bucket? Life is hard and life is unfair. Tongue-in-cheek example. Here's another example. I want you to think let's pick a day, July 4th, 1776. I just want you to imagine right now that the room that the Declaration of Independence was signed in. I just want you to think about the energy that was in that room. I want you to think about what they were going through. You know, it was hot. July 4th, it's hot. So, you know, they were probably sweating underneath their powdered wigs, and their wooden teeth were probably getting, you know, the little condensation on them in addition to the hot breath. All of that was going on. Who was in that room? Think about it. Who's in that room? People look like me? Oh, snap. No. Nuh-uh. Women in there? Maybe some immigrants? No. There were wealthy, white, learned men, society's highest. They were in that room. And so one thing you've got to understand, and one thing that you've got to know, is the foundation of our country was built for individuals like them, to benefit them, so they could break free from Britain, so they could become successful. Now, that's not an opinion, that's a fact, and that's okay. Sure, our country has a lot of issues and a lot of problems, but the country, by and large, gives a lot of people great opportunities to become successful. But the individuals represented in this room, especially the demographic, middle, late-aged white men with land that had access to resources and different things like that, a lot of those types of individuals are still winning, by and large. Look at our representation. Most of them fit the demographic of the individuals that signed the Declaration of Independence. That's just how it is. That's just a fact. So, life is hard and life is unfair for everybody, but especially for people that weren't in that room. So, diversity, equity, inclusion, it reminds us of that, and we should. We do need to be reminded of our history, all sides of it, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, the white, and the black. But here's something else that diversity, equity, inclusion reminds us of, and I really want you to understand. It reminds us of how much the world has changed and how much the world is changing. This is huge. This is like bottom line huge for you. The world is changing. Nobody says Blockbuster and chill, y'all. They say Netflix and chill. What happened to Blockbuster? Where'd they go? When they coming back? They're not. You know why? Because when things started changing, they were like, nah, we good. Netflix says, hey, would you please buy our company? Blockbuster says, that'll never work. By 2043, the U.S. Census Bureau says that America will be a majority minority. Let me break that down for you, just in case you don't know what that means. By 2043, as of this recording, 23 years from now, America will be a majority minority. Right now, roughly 70% of the United States identifies as white or Caucasian, roughly. So by 2043, it won't be like that. Roughly, most of our representation in Washington is about 70% Caucasian. By 2043, it won't be like that. What does that mean? If you don't change, time will change you. You've got to understand that. And that's okay, again, unless you're Blockbuster. Don't be Blockbuster. Change now. Change. Understand that. So it reminds us, not just at a macro level, but as individuals at a micro level. And here's a mindset shift I want to give you. The system does not care about your emotions. The system doesn't care about your emotions. The system cares about inputs and outputs. That's it. So all the information I just shared with you, that's all it cares about. And if you don't program the right inputs, then you won't get the right outputs. The system doesn't care about your emotions. Here's the second way that you really need to connect diversity, equity, and inclusion to your success. It gives you the opportunity to build a unique set of skills. It gives you the opportunity to build a unique set of skills. And I want to share 4 with you right now, and I'm going to go deep into one of them as it relates to this topic. The number one skill that diversity, equity, and inclusion allows us to build is the skill of communication. The second skill is compartmentalization. The third skill is critical thinking. And the fourth skill is conflict resolution. Quickly, communication, words are hard. First of all, words are hard. The United States as a whole did not become a literate country until recently. My grandmother's parents couldn't read. My grandmother's still alive. And they went their whole lives without really knowing how to read and write. And so words are hard. Information is hard. The ability to translate feelings into words so that somebody else can understand them is hard. And so with diversity, equity, and inclusion, when somebody comes to you and maybe you're hiring somebody or maybe somebody in your office says, hey, I appear to be a man, but I feel like a woman, so now I want to identify as a woman, that's difficult to understand. And so you have to step up your communication skills, the ability to listen and hear, the ability to speak and be heard clearly. You got to step that up, because if you don't, you're going to get misunderstood. It's going to cause some conflict. And we're going to be talking about conflict resolution in a second. Compartmentalization. That's a skill. Hey, I'm black. A unarmed black man was shot 7 times in the back. I got to go to work the next day. My boss is white, and he's constantly sharing some very, I'm not going to say racist, I'm going to say biased observations constantly. So I kind of don't know how he feels. And I don't want to hear what he has to say. But family still got to eat. I still have to be a professional. I have to learn how to compartmentalize. I have to learn how to put stuff here for a moment. Feel everything that you have to feel, but I have to learn that. That's a skill. Put stuff here. That's what I teach my children all the time. Yes, you can feel upset. You can feel hurt, but you still need to clean this room. I understand. Oh, you didn't get dessert. I get it. So I have to tell that to my kids, but as adults, we have to learn that at a higher level, compartmentalize. And the third skill, critical thinking. Sometimes the things that we're taught, the things that we learn as we get older, we learn that those things aren't true. We learn early on, hey, Santa Claus isn't real. We learned that. For some time, many of you watching this, you believed, and maybe even you told your kids, that there's a fat white man that flies around the world only 2 days roughly, because, some days are different on the other side of the world. So December 24th, December 25th, there's a fat white man in a red suit with reindeer. Yay! Kids get a little older and they're like, you lied to me. What else are you lying about? Critical thinking. So you have to learn how to take some information that's opposing to what you've been conditioned and say, maybe I was taught wrong. Maybe this is right. Maybe I need to do better now. Or maybe I just need to be the way that I am and deal with the consequences. You got to learn that. But we're going to talk about conflict resolution, and in different trainings and different programs that my company has, we go through all these skills and we help leaders learn these skills. Now, conflict resolution. Conflict is any time what you want to happen doesn't happen. Like an expectation goes unmet. That's conflict. So it doesn't matter what it is. We sit down at a restaurant, new restaurant everybody's been talking about. It's like, oh, you got to eat here. You come in with your mask, but then you can take it down to eat. But, it's a great restaurant. And then you eat the food and it's not that great. You're conflicted. Man, I don't want to have to pay for this. You're disappointed. Thought it was going to be better than it really is. And so conflict resolution happens when what you think is going to happen doesn't happen. A big conflict that happened recently in my life? Growing up, my favorite Disney movie was The Little Mermaid. I know, there's a story behind it. But think about what your favorite Disney movie is and why. But when I was 6 years old, I had surgery and my dad went to Blockbuster and got me The Little Mermaid. And, back then didn't have the Netflix, you didn't have all that stuff. And so I watched The Little Mermaid over and over and over again. And I was like, oh, I just love this, all that. And recently Disney started doing live action remakes. And, The Lion King was remade. Aladdin with Will Smith, that was pretty good. Heard that they were doing a live action remake of The Little Mermaid. And Ariel was going to be played by one of my favorite young actresses, Halle Bailey, not to be confused with Halle Berry. Halle Bailey and her sister, they're incredible talents. They can sing very, very well. They can act very, very well. They star on the show Grownish. And so I was excited about it until I learned about the hashtag, Not My Ariel. People were posting all over Twitter and social media. They were mad. They were mad. Now, when you get time, and if it's not on the screen, Halle Bailey, she's a beautiful young lady, but they didn't like that she was cast as Ariel. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I know why. She ain't got red hair. No, you know what? That's not why. Because it's Little Mermaid, right? She's not a real mermaid. Obviously, I'm being, facetious. She's a young black lady. That's why they mad. And you can search the hashtag Not My Ariel. People are upset. Mermaids aren't real, y'all. So one person even posted that Disney ruined the movie, and then an explicit word that I can't say, blank Disney. How could you mess this up? The movie, I didn't even tell you, the movie hadn't come out yet. So they messed up the movie before it came out. See, what happens is people are conflicted and they don't even know why. They think it's just because, my expectation was, no, you have an internal bias based on a system of racism and different things. That's all. And so what we have to do, though, at an individual level is check our own conflicts related to race, sexuality, religion, politics, mental health. We got to check that stuff with us because we all got some stuff with us. Think about it. If somebody comes to you and says, oh, I'm a Christian, you have thoughts automatically. Maybe they're good if you had good experiences. Maybe they're bad if you didn't. Maybe earlier in this presentation where I was like, oh, there were a bunch of white guys signing the Declaration of Independence. You felt some type of way because it's a black guy saying something about white people. You got to check it. Politics. Somebody says, yes, I voted for this person or that person. How dare you? What kind of person are you? Really? We all have it, though. We all have it. And so we have to check it. And then when we recognize it with other people, We've got to learn how to give them grace, give them information, and then give them a decision. Because sometimes the decision is, hey, you don't need to share that. And that's one of those skill sets with communication, knowing what to say and when to say it. See, with social media, everybody thinks, oh, now is the perfect time to tell everybody. No, it's not, especially not in the place of business, especially in a place where our goal is not to share opinions. Our goal is to get the customer what they need. Our goal is to make this change in the organization. That's our goal. Our goal is not your opinion. Either way, even if your opinion's good now, I'm not just talking about even if your opinion is good, maybe it's just not the right time. And we have to learn that skill, but we also have to learn how to resolve the conflict within ourselves. Well, all certain types of people like this type of food, or all certain types of people like this can't drive, or whatever. Start thinking about it. And even though I didn't say a particular race or gender, you thought something. Yeah, you did. See, biased observation. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but you got to make sure that you check it before it comes out of your mouth. If somebody checks you and takes money from your check. Diversity, equity, inclusion, it gives us more opportunities. That's the last way we're going to connect it to success. It gives us more opportunities for life. It gives us more opportunities to thrive in life. And that's why my company, my organization, we teach leaders in organizations the skills necessary to thrive in a diverse workforce. Now, when I say it gives us more opportunities, I want you to think back to the history books. A lot of people have trouble and problems with the history books because they often tell things one-sided. But a lot of the imports, like when people would travel all across the world to go get stuff, what type of stuff would they get? Silk, right? Spices. I want you to think about it. If where you're from, wherever you're from, whatever country that your ancestors originate from, think if all you ate your entire life was food from that place. Think about how bland your food experience would be. Think about that. Now, in the history books, when they say that such and such explored and got spices and silk, and they always mention spices. Can you imagine the first time that somebody got a different spice from a different area and they sprinkled it on some food and they were like, ooh, that's different. Woo! That's exactly what I'm talking about. Diversity, equity, inclusion, it gives you more opportunities to thrive, but it also expands. As we learn, our minds expand, and as we learn more about other people in different corners of the world, things expand, things get bigger, they don't contract. And so if you learn that I have white privilege, if you're white, originally or initially, you might reject that. No, white privilege, I've struggled as well. But there are some doors that you can get open that other people can't. Imagine if you open the door for people that could go in doors that you don't want to go into. You could create more. But what you've also done is created a friend for yourself. That's what a lot of people don't get. You create more opportunities. People can go places that you can't go. People can do things that you can't do. And I want to tell you a quick story. My name is Odell Bizell II. I'm named after my grandfather, Odell Bizell I, or 1.0, how I like to put it sometimes. Now, I never got to meet my grandfather. He died in 1974. I didn't open my eyes on this earth until 1985. And so, knowing that, my grandfather, born in 1928, me born in 1985, I've been able to do some incredible things that my grandfather probably never even imagined in his wildest dreams. And it takes me to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, 2019. I'm about to speak in front of 2,000 new students at the University of Wisconsin on Eau Claire's campus. And I hear, Odell, before I get on stage. Now, I think I'm a big deal, but in actuality, I'm not. And most people that hear me speak have never heard of me before. And so when I hear my name, Odell, Odell, I'm thinking maybe there's like a kid or a student whose name is Odell and he's popular or something like that. But then I peek my head around the curtain and I see these 4 white teenagers in the front row, Odell! And they point at me and they're telling me to come on. I'm like, what is happening right now? And I walk up to them and they're just, we looked you up on YouTube. We knew you were going to be at our school. Like, yeah. And I'm just like, okay, cool. We had to take a picture. So I took a picture with the guys. A couple of them said that they wanted to own their own business and they wanted to know if I would give them advice. And I was like, yeah, this is really cool. And I shared the picture on my social media. I showed the picture to my grandmother. And my grandmother said to me, she said, ain't that something? 4 white teenagers calling your name. Your granddaddy probably smiling somewhere. That's good. Think about that. Opportunities. My granddad died in 1974. At that point in history, there's no way I would have been able to do that. There's no way he would have been able to do that. But because diversity, equity, inclusion, it gives us more opportunities to connect, but it also gives those 4 young men opportunity to connect to a black dude from North Carolina. And I've been able to help them sense with just different things, different questions that they had. And so they can connect to somebody different and they can share that experience with somebody else. You see it expanding and growing. That's what it means. Also, more opportunities to travel. Imagine you going somewhere and you not knowing anything about the place. You're not knowing where the sunset looks the best. You're not understanding and seeing the different type of sand on different beaches. It gives you a more full experience of life. And as far as we know, this is the only life like this that we get. So why wouldn't you want to learn more about how things are different? See, a lot of times when we learn about things that are different and it's new to us, we get fearful. Oh no, what if my life changes because of this information? Spoiler alert, it will. But the thing about changes is you get to choose the changes. And I'll close with this. I wrote a book called Why I Fired My White Best Friend. And earlier I talked about the podcast I had with my friend. And I named the book Why I Fired My White Best Friend because I think for me, it was a process, it was an experience. And a lot of people, when they read the book, initially they're like, oh gosh, what is he talking about? He's going to be going in on straight heterosexual white men. Goodness, I don't want to read another one of those. It's not really about that. You should check out the book if you feel led. But here's the reason why I fired my white best friend. And here's the reason why when things come up in companies and organizations, people usually get fired on these types of issues. And it's because he simply did not acknowledge that he wanted to grow more. That's it. He didn't want to grow more. Now me, if you're going to be around me, you got to grow. He didn't want to, had to cut him loose. Now, sometimes things aren't that cut and dry, depending on, different situations, different obstacles. But all in all, we've got to make a decision to learn more and grow more, period. In your company, in your organization, what guidelines have you laid out to help people learn more and grow more? What are you continuously doing to make sure that you change how those things are charted, how those things are measured? What are you doing? We've all got a decision to make. And sometimes the decision is tough, sometimes the decision is easy, but the decision has to be made. But if we go about doing everything the way it's always been done, hey, here's a fact sheet, here's the new list of gender pronouns, here's the new list of organizations that we can't talk bad about or will be seen as a racist or insensitive organization. If that's all you want to do, then your company won't grow, it won't continue to thrive. But if you continue to tune in to events like this, like the Bloom Inclusion Conference, and you continue to connect to the resources and you continually grow as a leader, then the individuals that follow you, the individuals that you are assigned to oversee for a season, they're going to grow too. And eventually we'll all get to a better place. My name is Odell Bizell. I appreciate your time and attention. Continue to enjoy the rest of the conference. Plug in and become the best that you can be. And I'll see you at the top, not from the top. Take care.